Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. My name is Paul Sanneman. I'm your host. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. I have as my guest today a legend in his own mind, Adam Cooper, who probably has a good reason for that, actually, with Ascent Consulting. So, a little about your background, Adam. Why should people listen to you about construction?
Well, thanks, Paul, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be back with you. So I'm a former contractor. I started out as an electrician after college and worked my way up through the ranks as of a few local and regional electrical contractors. Then I started my own electrical contracting business, mostly commercial and industrial here in Atlanta, Georgia. I worked all over the Southeast. And then I went to work for some big multifamily developers and builders and learned how to wire up apartments and condos and hotel rooms and things like that, and then got back into general contracting for a few years, and then started Ascent Consulting back in 2014, so over a decade ago. And since then, our company, myself and my team, have worked with, I think at last count, we were over 200 different construction companies all over North America. We help them solve a variety of challenges and take advantage of opportunities in the areas of, structured operations, technology solutions like Procore, Builder Trend, that kind of stuff, new accounting systems. We help with strategic marketing plans. We help them grow their businesses. And, the reason I would say that people should listen to me is because my team and I know what we're doing. We've seen so many companies at this point, the inner workings of construction companies, and help them with these challenges, these opportunities, that we really understand industry best practices aren't best for everybody. And every company has its own little bit of uniqueness, and we help discover what that uniqueness is and really make them optimize to succeed in whatever their market or project type is.
Okay, now I've been a coach, God knows, for 50 years. I'm one of them. And the biggest problem I've had, and tell me how you solve it. How do you help somebody make the transition, I'm going to call from tradesperson to entrepreneur? In other words, a lot of people in the construction industry, unlike other industries, started out as tradespeople. There's like
Yes.
you, electricians, they're guys,
Yeah.
right? Working with their hands, doing something. Either they get laid off, their wife gives them a bad time, whatever, pick a reason, and they decide to start a company. Well, there's a certain sentimentality that comes with the tradesperson. I mean, working with your hands, the sense of urgency, no patience, getting stuff done, and a lot of those traits as a tradesperson shoots you in the foot as an entrepreneur. And maybe you can explain how you help people make that transition from tradesperson to entrepreneur.
Sure. And it's a great point you make, right? Most construction companies, especially the skilled trades, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, sheetrock, framing, concrete, all of them, most of those company owners started out as tradespeople. They were working in the field with their hands and their tools, doing the work. And they said, one day, I could probably make more money if I was doing this for myself. And they get some side work going. Then they get enough side work that they can go out on their own. They buy a truck, maybe they hire a helper, and off they go, right? It's a different world. When you are that small contractor, you're now running the business, you're estimating the work, and you're probably still performing it or you're project managing it. As that company continues to grow, I use the phrase, they have to learn to put the shovel down. They have to stop working in the field at some point. If they really want to be a business owner, they have to stop working on the projects and start working on the business. You can still work in the business. You just shouldn't be out there running the machinery. You shouldn't be out there pulling the wire, digging the ditch, laying the pipe, painting the walls, whatever it may be. That mindset shift, some people just aren't made for it, and they want to hire a manager to run the business side of the business, or their wife runs the books and they run the field. We see that a lot. But there's a mentality shift. I think for a lot of our clients, it comes with too much struggle. They are pulled in so many directions between the field and the office and the sales and the marketing and the estimating and everything. They have to start hiring people to help them. And as they hire enough people, they basically grow themselves out of that role organically, or strategically. They say, I have got to stop doing this part of the business so that I can focus on a different part. For me, The last thing I let go of was I had to stop being the accountant in the company, and I had to hire a bookkeeper to do the books day to day so I could go focus more on sales. That was it for me. When I was an electrical contractor, I had to eventually hire an estimator because I didn't have time to estimate and project manage and grow the business. Then I hired superintendents, then I hired project managers, and eventually I had nothing to do on the jobs. All I had to do was run the business and go sell and think strategically. So I think that's, like I said, I think it comes about somewhat organically, and sometimes they're forced to do it out of pain, just avoiding pain. Um, I could recommend a few books. I can send you some that you can put in the show notes that are really great to read. But one that comes to mind for me is called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. And he talks about the value of building a team of A players so that you can stop being the person wearing all the hats and really become the business owner and be the manager of that business.
Okay. Now, I remember one time I was working with somebody and we were doing some strategic planning, right? And we were sitting in his living room. And I said, you don't value what we're doing. And he goes, bullshit, I took off work to do this. Right. So
Right.
how, it's a mindset. How do you shift them? The mindset, because the biggest problem I have is getting people to trust. I mean, I hired a guy once, I trusted him, I lost, 50 grand, never do that again. So
Yeah.
how do you get the contractor guy to hire a team and trust that team with stuff so he can actually let go? That was a problem I had. How do you get him to let go?
Yeah. It's a great question. When we've worked with clients like that, they've usually brought us in because they're ready to let go and they don't know how. But getting to the point where they're ready to let go is really a mindset thing. Now, we can help them set up systems and checks and balances. So, like, they have a bookkeeper, but they don't trust the bookkeeper to do all of it. They have to have some amount of control, like, over the money going out to make sure that they're not being defrauded. They're not having somebody create
Mhm.
dummy invoices and pay themselves money and embezzle money out of the company. So we
Right.
set up checks to prevent that type of thing. They have to
Mhm.
be able to get reports from the project manager that show that the project is progressing the way that the project manager says it is. So, trust but verify. A lot of that comes into play with what you talked
Mhm.
about. Getting somebody to be trusting a team to let go and hand things over to. But how do you shift their mindset? It's a great question. Some people, to be honest, some people will never shift that mindset, Paul. There are some business owners who don't really want to be business owners. They want to work at a company that they own and have that job security, but they don't want to be the business owner. They want to be the general superintendent. We come across a lot of husband and wife, like remodel contractors like that.
Mhm.
The husband wants to run the field. He wants to be the project manager. He wants to be on the job sites. The wife does the design work and runs the accounting and the back office and makes sure that the bills get paid and the money comes in and the employees get their paychecks and they make a good duo. Um, and we have a client right now where she's pushing him to get out of the field and he's literally sitting on a backhoe telling her, I'm not coming to the office today.
Nice.
I've got to dig this ditch, honey. And
Right.
he loves being on the heavy yellow metal. So he's out there running the machines because that's his happy place. And when it's your business, find the seat that you want to sit in and design the company to support you being able to sit in the seat you want. Why not? Nobody says they have to sit in the office all day as the business owner.
Mhm.
That's kind of the beauty of being the business owner.
Yes, that's true. I know the difference between my owning a job and owning a business. If you can go away and it keeps generating money, you own a business. You go away and it stops
Correct.
your job. And I would say
Right.
great percentage of people in construction own a job. If they leave, it
Correct.
like falls apart. So how do you help them make that transition from owning a job to owning a business so they can trust people, build the team, and like let go? Give me some examples of when you're big. Give me a big success and a big failure. That's always fun. When you really
Gotcha.
succeeded with, and when you just didn't work in a tank.
Well, I got one I can tell you about that's going on right now. So a few years ago, we worked with a residential remodel company in California, and
Mhm.
we helped them install Procore in this case. They wanted Procore, so we put Procore in place. We got their accounting system talking to Procore, and we set up this system for the project managers to be able to run their jobs in Procore. And we installed a very skilled accounting bookkeeper person with a construction experience. So the books are now handled and the project management is handled, and he's got his system of checks and balances. And he took the company from like 10 million to 17 million over the last couple of years. He's probably bumping up against 20 million this year. And he's in his late 50s. He bought himself a Ferrari. His kids are teenagers. And he calls me last week and says, I'm ready to sell. And I said, to who? And he says, I don't know yet, but I'm ready to sell the business. I said, okay, let's go through different role parts of the company. What are you still doing? And he said, the only thing that I'm doing is I'm estimating right now. And I've got a guy I'm trained to estimate the way I estimate. I've got my estimating workbook. I've got it all built. And I said, okay, here's what I can tell you. You get that estimator to start winning work without you having any oversight over it. And we can take you to market. We can sell that company because it doesn't need you anymore. If the only thing you're doing is estimating and kind of looking things over, a new owner could look things over just like you're looking them over, making sure the invoices are approved and making sure that the bills that go out to the homeowners are approved and all the costs are in there. That's easy to teach somebody to take that off of your plate and hand it over to a new owner. But we can't have you estimating because the guy who buys your business or gal may not know how to estimate. So we have to have that handled. But if you're not project managing, you're not buying material, the only thing you're doing is estimating. We can get you out of that. We can sell your business. And it's probably worth 3 to 5 times your EBITDA, which is your earnings before taxes and depreciation, all that stuff, your net bottom line. So if you've got a $20 million business and it's making you, let's say its bottom line is 10%, 2 million a year, it's worth 6 to 10 million on the street if it runs without you. And when you can paint a picture to somebody and say, look, if you set up the right systems, install the team and get the business to say 5 or 10 million, and it has a net of 10 or 20%, it could be worth that much in a few years when you want to sell it. Maybe that's the carrot you can dangle for them to go, you know what? Maybe it is worth setting up some of these systems and building a team because I want to build an asset that I can sell that'll pay for my retirement. I don't have to squirrel all my money away now. If I invested in the business and create a business and not just a job that I own, like you talked about, that's one way to shift their mindset. You have to show them what the end game looks like, and then you can reverse engineer it. But that end game, when you show them this, you can have something that's worth millions to a buyer, and you could eventually exit clean. That's what they want. That's really what I think they want.
Well, now it's an interesting question about retirement, right? Most people do when they retire is die. Just statistically, that's what happens, right? Because they lose their mission in life. So there's a couple options, obviously. You can, build it to sell. There's a book, I think, called Build to Sell, which is a good way to read it.
There is.
But the time is, it depends on whether you love or hate your job. If you love your job and you love what you do, then why would you sell it? Because I think actually you can make more money if you own, say, even a $10 million company that's netting $1 million a year, enough to be there very much. I mean, it's hard to get an investment that's going to make you $1 million a year, even at 10, at least 10, 15 million cash. And you also lose your mission and purpose. Now, if you don't like what you do and you want to fly around the world or whatever, I can totally sense that. So there's 2 strategies: sell internally, right? Build a team and sell to the team. I think you get more money that way, or sell it to an outside person. Now that I think it's getting easier with private equity because AI has disrupted a lot of industries. And there's hundreds of $1 million looking for something to do. And, AI is not going to put on a roof anytime soon. So I have seen a shift where there's a lot of private equity rolling up, various kinds of construction companies, which wasn't around 5 years ago. I think that's because of AI. But which do you suggest? Either selling it internally, holding on to it, or failing and just selling, taking the cash and going? You got to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of options inside of those choices. There's lots of variables in there. Like if you sell it to the employees, they're doing an outright sale, you're doing an ESOP, depends on the corporate structure. These are really minute details that make a difference. So the first thing I would say is if you're thinking about selling to your internal team, Do you have a team that's ready to take it over? Have you been grooming somebody to take it over? Can they afford it? Can they borrow the money? Does the business generate enough revenue that they can borrow against it or do a profit share with you to pay you out over time? How do you want to structure that? There's a lot of variety inside of that. The nice thing about selling to an outsider is that it's typically a lot cleaner, because if you're selling to a competitor who wants your book of business and your employees and your tools and all that stuff, they're usually better positioned to do a one-time buyout. They just buy out, but they borrow the money from their company, they buy your company, they assimilate it in, or they own both logos,
Mhm.
and then you're out and you get to go
Yeah.
on and go do whatever it is that you want. Um, if you're selling it to the employees, a lot of times you're stuck in the business for a period of time to groom somebody to take it over. So you
Right.
may have to do a 3 year or a 5 year period, because if you sell it to them and you're getting paid out from the profits of the business and they don't keep the business running and the business fails, you don't get paid out. They just took your car and wrecked it. They drove it into a ditch.
Right.
So you have an interest in staying there. With my client in California, he doesn't want to be tied to it long term. He wants to get out clean. He'd rather have a lump sum payout or a structured buyout over time, but he doesn't want to do it with the employees because he doesn't have anybody who's ready to take it over. And he doesn't
Right.
want to stay in the business for 2 more years to groom somebody to take it over. He'd rather find somebody who can pull the trigger and be out in 6 months.
Okay. So now, what about, there's a statistic, I don't know where it came from, but somebody told me, maybe true or not these days. 80% of the people that sell their businesses regret selling. Now, I think that may be true, because I know, know that many, a couple have. I know a couple of people that successfully sold and a couple of people that haven't. I think it has a lot to do with your meaning and purpose in life, right? I mean, if you identify with the business and it's who you are and you sell it, then you sort of lose who you are, right? Whereas,
Yeah.
and I don't think people realize that maybe until it's too late. They send up, okay, they sell their business, now they got, pick a number, they got 5 million, now they have 3 million after taxes or some number. They're sitting around, they go, I I mean, I'm with my wife all day. She's nice, but no offense. It's like, or I can only play so much golf. Or I mean,
Yep.
I think you need to look at what the heck you're going to do, because having a bunch of money and a bunch of time, what are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah. So my wife's father, he's 10 years old, he's 62. So he did that a couple of years ago. He sold out his business. He was in the construction industry, sold his business, pocketed the money, and had to find things to do to fill the time. So he's building a mountain house in North Carolina. They have their beach house. He travels back and forth. Like, he's found projects to keep him busy, and he's still in construction. He's just doing it for himself now.
Right.
So he gets a kick out of the construction process, and he doesn't need to have a big construction company anymore. It's his projects. So he gets complete control, which he really enjoys. But you're right. If your identity is collapsed with the business, you better have thought that through before you sell. Like, who are you gonna be if part of your identity gets sold off and it's not your identity anymore? Um,
Right.
that's a very it's kind of a more of an esoteric question, but you know, this is what happens when people retire. My dad, when he retired, he got involved with the HOA in his community and became like the head of the pool committee and joined the
Mhm.
library and went to continuing education courses at the local college. And now he does some adjunct teaching and stuff. Like, have a plan. And you can't just sit around and watch game shows all
And
day.
make
You will
sure you're
go
going to have
nuts.
more fun doing the other thing than you are have fun doing what you do, right?
Yeah, or go start another company and
Go
build
start another
another
company.
one.
I guess that's I've started a couple companies that it's much easier to run one than start one, having done that myself.
Yeah,
So
likewise.
Adam, what do you see as the biggest challenge? I mean, you work at a lot of companies, what are your biggest challenges in working with a construction company? What difficulties do you find in helping doing coaching? What's the biggest problem you run into?
Oh, the biggest problem is that the owners don't make time to do what they said they wanted to do. They said they wanted to organize the business. They wanted to start letting go of things. They wanted to install processes and procedures, and then they disappear and they leave us with their team and they say, go do this with my team, but they're not there to cheerlead and lead the charge.
Mhm.
So absentee owners, like, they're too busy sitting on a piece of equipment. They don't want to be
Yeah,
in the office working on the business. They just hire us and say, go take care of this for me. Like, there's an easy button. And there isn't an easy button in business, especially in
yeah.
construction. So that's our biggest challenge we find when we're going to work with a construction company, that the owner disappears. The second one would be that they said they wanted all this change, but then they get overwhelmed and they don't tell us that they're overwhelmed, and they let us keep going. And then eventually they just shut down. They go, this is too much. I can't take anymore, or it's too much change. So
So is
having
that one of the biggest reasons when we all get fired occasionally, right? So when you get fired, what is that reason? They just don't want to deal with it. It's like it's just too much trouble.
we don't get fired. What usually happens is they throw their hands up, they wave a white flag, and they go, this is not, it doesn't look like I thought it would, or there's a mismatch of expectations.
Right.
So a lot of times what we do then is we do a stop and we reset. We meet with the owners and we go, okay, let's talk about what we've done so far and where we think we're going. And is that where you want to go, or do you want to change direction? And we just
Mhm.
have a conversation with them. And sometimes they get re-engaged and they go, okay, yep, this is what I wanted. I just didn't realize that's where we were on the path. I see it now. Let's keep going. Or they say, yeah, you're right. I had a different vision in my head and I didn't communicate that very clearly. So let me tell you where I do want to wind up, and then we can course correct. Like, you know, we're going to Baltimore instead of to New York. So let's
Right.
get off this highway and get on the side road. Let's just get you to Baltimore and make sure that you're happy with where we got you.
Now, one of the issues I have in coaching, and you probably have the same one, how do you deal with it? Knowing what to do and getting people to do stuff are two entire different things, right? I mean, how do
Yes.
you get healthy? You eat right and you exercise. I mean, and yet America's fat. Come on, right? So the answer's there, So how do you get people? I mean, telling what to do is one thing. Getting them to do it is something else. How do you get implementation to work?
Well, as consultants, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So we can work with their team and we can push the agenda forward. Think about it in a construction sense. I'm the electrician and I need walls installed so that
Mhm.
I can wire up the building. And if the framer is behind, I can start pushing the framer. I can push the general contractor to push the framer. We can push the project to make an end date. So we can push the agenda. Um, but my mom used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mhm.
We can only do so much as consultants. And we don't do a lot of what you would call coaching, but we do a lot of advisory. But we can't make them do anything. It's not our job to
Right.
motivate them and force them to do anything. It's their business, it's their company. We're here to help. They brought us in to help. You know, thankfully and gratefully, almost all of our clients thought it through before they brought us in, and they have been engaged, and we've had great experiences. I've had a few where it was just the wrong timing or not the right time to do certain things.
Mhm.
I had one client years ago. He decided right after we started that he was going to start building a house for himself and his family. Plus, he had a newborn at home, and he thought he'd have
Uh,
time for all the work we were going to do. And it just turned out not to be the right time. So I
right.
offered to pull the plug on it, and he gratefully accepted. And we
Right.
parted as friends and just had lunch a few weeks ago. Actually, that was
Right.
6 or 7 years ago. So
Right.
I
So
know
if
you got another
people,
question burning there. I can see
I
it.
do now, people want to engage you, Adam. I mean, what does it cost? How do they find out? How does someone? I'm sure someone listening to this and go, well, I probably can't afford him, or how do people work with you? How do they start that process?
The easiest way to start with us is to just book a free consultation. You go to our website, ascentconsults.com, and right at the top, there's a book a free consultation button in red. Click on that button and set up a time to talk with one of our consultants. And we'll just have an easy, free conversation like, what's going on in your business? What are you struggling with? Or what's the opportunity you want to capitalize on? And we work with clients of all shapes and sizes. So about probably about 25% of our clients are residential contractors, maybe a little more. And we work with clients that are, just scratching the surface at around a million or two, all the way up to people doing hundreds of millions. So we work with a wide variety. We work in very specialized projects or very broad projects. And, I like to say that our pricing is priced right for our industry. We're not here to break the bank, but we are, providing a lot of value. So we work on fixed fee contracts as well. So you're never going to get nickel and dime T&M bills from us. We're not hourly. We come up with a project and a scope just like you would as a contractor. We put a timeline to it. We put a price to it that everybody agrees on, and we get to work.
But give me a typical timeline and scope for a project you work on with like a residential contract.
Sure. So let's say, they're a few $1 million in revenue and they want to get their operations kind of standardized and maybe put something like Builder Trend in place. And they're working basically off of QuickBooks and spreadsheets right now. And they want to set up a system like that. That type of a project would probably be, 6 months for us, roughly. And, cheaper than a project manager that you'd have to hire. So if that gives you a sense of what a project manager costs, we're about the same price, maybe a little bit less.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast and you would like to, I think not investigating is just not smart. I mean, I always say, what do you got to lose by calling someone and get their opinion? I mean, you've been successful, you know a lot of people, and it's not going to cost anything to find out. So to me, they should just call and find out whether they can afford or not afford it. In my experience in doing many times of coaching is the ROI is amazing. And I've been coaching for a long time, and one of my friends got percentage of equity instead of hourly. I probably should have done that. I'd be worth 100 million, right? I think I built so many companies from like 2 to 20 million, and I go, they say thanks a lot, and they paid me by 40 grand, and we're done. And they go, thanks a lot, we're done. So, that's a different business model, right?
Yep, we've investigated that model as well, and we can even offer terms like that where you can pay us a full fee up front or a reduced fee with some type of residual on the growth of the company when we're done. So we do have that type of a model as well. It's not as common. Some contractors don't want to be giving us a share of the profits for the next couple of years. And they'd rather pay the fee up front. But for people who maybe don't want to make as big an investment up front and want us to have some skin in the game, we do offer terms like that.
That's a great idea. Cool. Well, thanks, Adam. I appreciate you being here. It's great advice. And I would suggest if you have a business and it's not perfect, which is everybody sitting there, you should give Adam a call.
I appreciate that, Paul. It's great to reconnect with you, and it's been fun being on today. And yeah, if anybody would like to set up a time to talk with us, again, ascentconsults.com, and just hit the book a free consultation button. We'll get you scheduled to talk to somebody.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Paul.